Hello, I'm Chris and welcome back to another episode. And as you can see here, today we're going to be working on the interior, just getting a bit of paint down and detailing it up. And to start with, we're going to give it a carpeted look effect as such, using some embossing powder. So for this little technique, it's actually something I learned from a fellow builder, John's Mini Garage. I've seen him use it on a few of his builds where he's used this range of gunmetal coloured embossing powder, and I just think for the ease of use and the effect it gives afterwards, it's absolutely brilliant. I've seen people use flocking, and obviously there's a lot of fine fibres and they can get here, there, they can get everywhere, and when you're doing all your work in one area, such as your gluing, your painting and whatever else, you're running a little bit of a risk of fibres getting here and there. Whereas this embossing powder, it's got a little bit of weight to it, and it's like tiny little pellets as such. When it comes to applying this, it's really quite easy. Just get a bit of plain paper, whatever, down underneath where your working station is. Make sure there's a nice crease down the middle, because you'll see why in a minute. You can use a clear acrylic, you can use PVA glue, white glue, school glue, anything like that. Something thin, just paint one section at a time as such, glue one section at a time, and then just pour the powder over. Give it a rock around, give the unit a tap just to get the embossing powder into, make sure it's everywhere, make sure everywhere's covered. And then once it's all covered, let it dry. That way, if you've got any like excess paint glue or such on, areas you don't want, once it's fully dry, you can come back later on once it's all dried off and use like a soft brush or something just to take off any excess that you don't need. And as you can see here, this is how easy it is to use. Literally pour it straight back in the jar, no waste. Now we're going to just apply the dials on the dashboard and just get bits and paints down on, the steering wheel, the gear stick and whatnot. So for this interior, I'm actually keeping it quite basic, quite simple. I'm going for mostly all black. I will be touching a few bits up here and there, such as the centre console. Behind the centre console, I'll be using some titanium silver just to pick that, the bit of trim out on the centre console, just to make it stand out a little bit from the rest, just to add a little bit of something in there. But otherwise, the rest of it, yeah, I've done it a few times. I've gone for like an all black interior, and it's just simple, and it works well in my opinion. For some reason, I didn't have the greatest of time getting this gloss black down on this steering wheel. I don't know if the paint's, because I don't use this gloss black that often. I don't know if it's just aged a little bit and it's just gone a bit funky, shall we say. It just wasn't very nice going down. It was a little bit lumpy and bumpy. I was a little bit gutted, really, to be honest. But it is what it is. You're not really going to see it that much once it's all assembled. I'm just picking out the centre lock cap, and I think it's a flat aluminium, I think that was. So as you can see, I'm just picking up the trim on the centre console in that titanium silver. Like I said before in previous videos, my bushing isn't the best. It's trying to keep a steady hand. It does get a little bit shaky, and I was struggling, to be honest, truth be told, on this one. Trying to get all the detailing, and just trying not to go over too much over the trim in the dashboard, centre console and stuff. And you can see it, over some bits I have gone over the edge, but I have got a remedy to get rid of that once it's dried up a little bit, using some of my flat triangular pointed Tamiya cotton swabs, along with some Mr. Hobby self-leveling thinner. So as you can see, I'm going to use one of these flat triangular pointed cotton swabs from Tamiya, dipped into some self-leveling thinner, just to get away on the edges the excess titanium silver paint. and as you can see, it's making light work of it. It works like a treat. These triangular cotton swabs are great when you're just trying to tidy up and just get a little bit of that extra detail and make it, you know, a bit tidy, to be honest. It's as simple as that. You know, it's not the greatest, but once it's all inside and the body's on, you're not going to see it too much anyway. I just think it's bits like this, I just like to make sure it's nice and tidy. So another tip here is one I've picked up off John's Mini Garage again. So thanks, mate. I really appreciate your helpful videos. Is just getting some X22 clear on top of the dials to give it that more of a realistic look, like you would in a real car. You know, when you look at the dials through the plastic front cover as such, and you can get that shine. You know, when you catch the light reflection on it. So now all the embossing powder is dried onto the body. I'm just using a short, stiff brush, sort of. I think it was a stiff brush soft, but I can't remember. It was a few days ago. Just to get off any excess of the powder, you know, from like the speaker surrounds, the speaker grills, and just anything on the seats, anything down the centre trim, anything that shouldn't be there. Just just remove it. Just to tidy up the appearance, give it a bit of a better look. It's not too difficult of a task, and I just think the effect it gives, I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So now it's time to get the inside of the windows painted. I absolutely love having these sharp pointed Tamiya plastic cutters. You can get so close to the edges. These are brilliant tools. You get so close to the edges. I've used different side cutters before, and I've actually cracked window screens and clear parts and this and that, but I yet haven't cracked any clear parts to my recollection. You just get such a nice, clean, crisp cut at each time. And you don't have to do much work after that, sanding it down if you don't really need to, don't want to. With this Aoshima kit, like most Aoshima kits, they do supply the window masks, which makes my life so much easier. It's just nicer to have, these window masks here, just to, make painting the inside much easier. Now, I've seen a lot of people using, airbrushes to do this with great effect. I've tried it a couple of times using my spray cans, and I have bad results every time. It's as if it's melting the tape residue into the clear part. You remove the clear part, you think, oh, there's a bit of residue, you try and clean it and you can't. You try and sand it, you can't, it's deep into the thingy. So I think it is the solvent, I don't know why, I think maybe the solvent, melting into the shape as such. So I have to resort to brush painting it. So I make sure it's all masked off, this masking can take a bit of time, but I think the more prep you do, the longer it takes. It's worth it in the end. Yes, you are prepping for maybe half an hour or so for painting for 2 minutes, but I just think it's worth it for that better end product. And also, once you've got the tape on, I always get the soft part of a cotton swab and make sure I just burnish all the edges down as much as possible. When you've got like a light source between yourself and behind the clear part, you can see where the tape is stuck down as such. So when you get it up at a certain angle near the light, you can see where it's stuck, where it hasn't. What you want to make sure you do is you're making sure it's stuck around all the edges, so you're not going to get any bleed through when you're brushing it on. And as you can see here, brushing it on, you don't have to be neat, not at all. Once it's all taken off, once the window glasses are in place, you're not going to see the untidiness of the brushing. First off, the first coat, I always do a really thin coat. You can use flat black, semi-gloss black, gloss black, you can use whatever black you want. But it's not going to make any difference, because once the trim's done, and once the glass is inside the body shell, you're just going to see the outside of it, so it's going to be shiny anyway from obviously the clear plastic. But as I was saying, with the first coat where I brush it on, I do an ultra thin coat to reduce the risk of any bleed. And not only that, it's kind of like a sealer, so you're sealing it in, so the next time you can go a bit heavier. I think I did maybe 3, maybe 4 coats to make sure there's a nice, thick, consistent black trim paint on the inside, so you're not getting any light seepage through it. And I've been doing it for quite a few models now, and I just think it's a perfect way for me, who hasn't got an airbrush, to get a neat as trim done as possible. And I don't mind, like I say, putting in that bit of extra work, spending much time, getting all the masking done, making sure it's all burnished in place. I'm quite happy. And as you can see there, so far, 2 coats, there's been no bleed. And truth be told, by the end of it, I was absolutely over the moon when I removed the tape. And it was just, was it perfect? Possibly not. But I was just so happy. And you'll soon see why I was so happy when I removed all the tape. I think I must leave it 15-20 minutes between each coat. But as you can see there, I think this is after the 3rd coat. It was just so clean. Look, yeah, you can see I was really happy with this. I had very minimal bleed through it all, if any. Yeah, I was so chuffed. And like I say, I think this was actually, removing the tape was the following day to make sure it had fully dried. I know it's even the Tamiya acrylics, they dry pretty quick. But I just wanted to make sure it was completely and fully dry. It may look tricky getting it off. I have some very pointed, sharp pointed tweezers just to get the corner of the tape up. And once the most of it is up, I get some of my thicker, flattest tweezers just to grab onto it and slowly pull it away. Not pull it away from the glass, but pull it against it almost. Just to make sure you're not lifting anything up. So upon removing the tapes, there has been a little bit of black paint where it shouldn't be, probably just here a little bit there. It's easy enough to tidy up, just get the end of a cocktail stick, just kind of like run it across the edge, you know, tidy it up again, square it off, and it works pretty well. Like I say, at the end of the day, that's not going to be too noticeable once it's all in and on. I was over the moon. What I'm doing now as well is, I do this quite often, is on the outside of the glass where you've had your fingerprints and this and that and everything else. I did put a bit too much on, I will be honest. I put far too much on. I don't know what happened here. I don't know if I was rushing or what. But normally just a little bit would be absolutely fine. But yeah, I just give it a quick polish just to bring it a bit of a better shine. Not that it needs it, but just in case, you know, you've got any marks and smears or bits of paint or fingerprints, greases or oils, anything like that. I just like, you know, a little bit of polish on the clear parts. Not like here, loads of polish. Whoops. Yeah, just to give it a bit of a nicer finish before putting it in. So get all the polish buffed off, get the glass buffed up, and then yeah, I was really happy with how this looks. And also the dashboard over the dials, look, you can see the clear. Once I get it in focus and get the light on, it will catch the light. Not going to see it much once it's all together, but you know it's there, and I'm pretty happy with that. So thank you all once again for watching my video. I really do appreciate it. Take care, look after yourselves, and see you next time. Cheers, thank you, bye.